This is Jade Castro, and you're here with the Black Wlvz.
Hey everybody, Garrett here. Another episode of the Black Wlvz Podcast about to take off.
Yes, and we have a special guest, Jay Maranan. All right. Thanks for coming, Jay. We really appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you guys for having me.
Indeed. So, me and Jay know each other from way back. We actually used to make music a long time ago. Right?
Yeah.
We actually met through mutual friends, and we actually had some exciting times. I'm actually on a couple of Jay's records.
Yes.
Right? Through TXP and Beat Seller.
Yep.
Do you want to kind of talk about what we used to do? When it came to music?
Yeah. Met Jay through a mutual friend. Shout out to Killer Kev. And actually, it was just from that point on, we were locked in. We kept in contact throughout the years. Jay used to make like really great music. I was always impressed when I heard your music, man.
Likewise, brother. Likewise.
Just your style and your approach. And I think I respected what you were doing. And I think every time we interacted, it was always a mutual respect.
Yeah.
And, as you kind of develop yourself in the music space or anything that you do, you kind of start to collaborate with people, right? So we started to collaborate. And I felt like, I had left for the military.
Yeah.
When I came back, I had a whole different outlook on life, a whole different mindset. Like my work ethics were just kind of the next level. So I kind of took the rock with the music and I just did everything I could to elevate it.
I'm going to cut you off, but we appreciate you serving in our military.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure I express that to you.
100%. Thank you. Yeah. And then I remember we were starting this, it was kind of like the new version of our group, TXP, at the time, right? And we had did a couple of songs together, and I was like so focused and so committed and dedicated to like taking our group, our name to the next level. I started to, build like relationships and networks, and this is something that you were alluding to. We were just talking about this off camera, but we were doing a bunch of shows like up and down Broadway, Burlingame, like all the cities around San Francisco. That's where we're based. So all the small cities outside, just kind of even further out, so like Petaluma and the further cities out, Oakland, and we had a good like circuit going.
Yeah,
and we had some really good times, some good experiences, like just having our moments on stage where we're just like, you're rapping, doing your thing, or hyping things up, and just like we got to experience that.
Yeah,
we got to experience that, like rocking the crowd, interacting, engaging. There's a couple of sold out shows, and it was a good time, man. It was a great time.
Yeah.
It was a good chunk of my life was dedicated to music.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that I had interactions with, a lot of relationships. And, I think the things that I'm doing now, I got a lot of that skill and that grit.
Yeah.
Cause the music industry and the music business is like 24/7 nonstop. We're in the studio till like 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Sun comes up, knows the lead work, coming back in the studio like months at a time. And in between there, you're doing shows, you're just going everywhere, studios, just networking. And I think a lot of that grit and that determination, I was able to like extrapolate some of that, and just carry that on with me in just my everyday approach into the things that I'm doing now, right? Because, I could work. I think a lot of like our limitations it has things to do with like our mindset and our belief.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you don't want to go the distance because you probably think you can't, or you don't believe that you can.
Yeah.
So you don't go the extra distance. But I think at that time, I'm on go mode.
We all were. Yeah.
the confidence, all that. And so I take that into like my everyday life now.
Yeah.
I just feel like anything that I put my energy, effort, and mind towards, I'm able to accomplish it. Like everything that I've done since I kind of got focused and locked in the things that I'm interested and passionate about now.
Yeah.
I was able to accomplish a lot. Right.
Yeah.
Things that I probably thought, I just had a meeting today, and just kind of where I'm at now, if you were to ask the version of myself 4 years ago if I would be doing what I'm doing now, being where I'm at now, I couldn't even imagine. And I'm not saying that to be like boastful or nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's where you come from, where I come from. We don't have a lot of resources. We don't have a lot of knowledge. We don't think far. We're very reactive, very survival mode. So we can't really think that far ahead. So, with that in mind, I never looked past a year. So I couldn't even imagine what year 3, 5, or 10 would look like because I never thought that far.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I've just learned that the only constant in life is change.
100%.
Right. And just to grasp that, I mean, if you asked me that 5 years ago when I was a younger guy, I would have been like, what does that mean? Like, I'm going to be here forever. Right. When as you start having physical ailments, you start dealing with day-to-day problems, issues at home, you start realizing, hey, man, things can change like that.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, for sure. And then I think the idea with playing on kind of those things is like going to your concept, like looking outside of that, right? Kind of going into the future, right? There's this kind of concept in metaphysics, which says basically like, it won't happen unless you can actually see it happening.
Yeah.
Right. So like this idea of like envisioning the life that you want, right? And it kind of requires you to be like, not just looking at today or tomorrow. It's like, what is this that I'm trying to create for myself, and really almost like feel it happening.
100%.
Right. And then all of a sudden you're 5 years go by, you're like, oh wow, like I built that, like, or I grew into that, of what I was trying to do. It seems like you're nodding your head a lot. It sounds like maybe for people who are listening, what were some of those things? Like, what were, like, you talked about the turning point, but what did you start thinking for yourself? Like, where was your mind going? You talked about some things that you were passionate about now. You were passionate in music, maybe you still are, right? But you started getting into building a life in a slightly different way, it sounds like.
Yeah, 100%. There's some pivotal moments that happened in my life, and I had to take a step back. I had to look at the landscape around me, the people around me, where my life was going. I had to evaluate and figure out, like, is this something that I want? Is there more to life?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think there's this moment that, there's a couple of moments. I'll share a couple, but there's this one moment you're talking about, pivotal moments. This is where my mind started to change. There was one time I was coming home from work, and, home should be a place of peace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Agreed.
So I'm like, I want to come home. I want to relax. I opened my door. I live by a store, was getting robbed. So I was like, I'm thinking about my kids, and my kids can't play outside. So that was just like, this can't be life.
Yeah.
Like, this cannot be life. This is not real. And, this is not it. This can't be life. Right.
Yeah.
That was like a fork in the road for me. So that was one moment. Then I started to think, like, okay, what do I need to do? What needs to change here? So that was like the start of that. And, I remember my mom passed away. This is, I've told this story a few times, but
With condolences.
yeah, so thank you. But this is really where my perspective on life changed 180. Like my own mortality became real.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, everything's going to come to an end sometime. what do I really want out of life? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter anymore, right? I'm just going to do what I want to do. So I had to start thinking ahead. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to change? What needs to happen in order for me to change my life, my trajectory? I don't want to be in the same position next year. So I think I took a moment of my life, which was probably like around a year, and I just sat there and I was just thinking, like, I just sat in my thought, like, I didn't know what to do. But I knew something had to change. I just didn't know what needed to change, and I didn't know what I needed to do. So I just was thinking. That's how long it took me. It could be different for everybody, but I just needed that time to kind of like
Evaluate your situation.
and kind of like turn down the noise.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much in your everyday life. I just needed to kind of turn all that down so I could focus. And when you're in like the neighborhood, you always have to be on high alert. You always have to be worried about what's happening outside. You always have to be worried about your safety, your protection, your kids. And so I had to like tune everything else out, focus on that, and then just think, like, with my resources, my knowledge, my network, what can I do? How can I change my situation? So then the first thing I thought was, like, my mortgage was my biggest payment. How can I get rid of that? And then that's when I started to think about real estate, which is what I'm really into right now, which I'm really passionate about. So then I used, kind of short story, I used all the money in my savings, and I turned a portion of the house into a rentable unit, rented it out. That was covering my mortgage. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I feel a little bit comfortable, like I could think, like I could breathe. I'm not just paycheck to paycheck now.
Yeah.
I'm okay right now in this moment. This gave me a moment to think, and then think a little bit further, right?
Yeah.
And then I started to kind of work on that muscle.
Yeah.
It was like, it's very important to visualize what you want out of your life. It's very important to think about what you want next year's version of yourself to look like, feel like, what you want your bank account to look like, the people you want around you, what your situation is, where you're living, all of that, your mental state, physical, spirituality. You want to think like, that version of yourself, who is that, and how do you get there?
Yeah.
Right. So you start thinking about, okay, I'm a spiritual guy. Maybe I'll pray more. What does that version of myself look like? What am I doing? My finances, I definitely want to increase my finances. What do I need to do to get there? So I practice visualization meditations. In the morning, I visualize the future version of myself. What am I doing? I'm on vacation. I'm on the beach. I could feel the sun. I see my kids playing, right? That's what I work towards. All this other stuff is just vehicles, but that's what I really want.
And that's powerful.
Yeah.
And it's very,
So I think about the future, what my family's doing. How do I feel? I don't feel stressed out. I feel like I'm on vacation. I feel like I could go a few times a year, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about any finances. I don't have to worry about any of that. That's my focus. So everything that I'm doing now is to get to that point, right? So, and what I'm doing now is very intentional, so that in 5 years, I'm in that moment, like, this is what I've been dreaming about. This is what I've been envisioning, is this, and here I am. But that moment's not going to pop up on its own.
Yeah.
You have to like manifest it. You got to visualize it in your mind. Your mind doesn't know if it's real or if it's fake.
Yeah.
If you visualize it subconsciously, you believe it's real, and you're going to do the thing subconsciously to get there.
So goes in the next question. How do you stay focused on those goals despite any distractions going on?
So I get my motivation and my drive from pain.
Okay.
Like, so I was talking about my mom's death, right? At that moment in my life, I didn't have much in the bank. I had my son, I had my mortgage, my wife wasn't working, and my mom passed away. So I gave everything I had for the funeral expenses. And rest in peace to my mom. You know, I think about my mom all the time. I just remembered in that moment, I couldn't grieve properly. I couldn't mourn properly because all I could think about was money. And I just knew during that time of turmoil, I never wanted to feel like that ever again. And I know that's going to happen again and again and again and again and again, right? As we get older, we're going to start losing a lot of loved ones. And I just know, and I knew then that I never want that to feel that feeling ever again. So that was like, I'm doing whatever I have to do so that in the future, the next time this happens, I don't feel like this.
Yeah.
Right. So that was like motivation. And then obviously, like when I had my son, I had to figure out how to create a different future for our family. So everything that I was doing now, I had to change because what I'm doing now is not working, at least to my satisfaction, right? Like, this is not life. This is it. I can't be paycheck to paycheck and just rinse and repeat every day. Nothing is changing. And I wasn't comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I wasn't comfortable. And I knew in my gut that I had way more potential than what I was living. Like, I can't be okay with my situation. I'm just not okay with my situation.
Like, hey, no judgment, it might work for you over there, but it's not me living up to my potential. It's not me living the life I want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started taking whatever action I could to change the way I thought about everything. And that transformation was so uncomfortable because, as we talked about, everybody knew me as a producer, music producer. My identity was that.
Yeah.
So now evolving into my future self, like when I thought about my future, I didn't even see myself in that light anymore. I mean, I spent half of my life in music, dedicated. But I just thought it was time for a change.
Yeah.
You know, like other things I didn't like, I just started learning about the business and I didn't really like. And nothing against anybody in the music. I want everybody to win. 100%. I want everybody to win. Whatever you're doing, I want everybody, you know, has the opportunity to just, you know, work to their fullest potential and get whatever they work for. I want everybody to win. My opinion of it is just, I just didn't see like, it was something that I wanted to continue to pursue and give effort, 100% effort. Like the reason why, like I slowed down the music is I'm not in a place right now where I want to give everything to it.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to give everything to it, then I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Right now. If things change in the future, maybe I'll come back. Because honestly, when I was making music, that was like very therapeutic for me. That's what I love, is the creation. The other stuff, the politics, the business, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite.
Indeed. I can second that. I'm in the same position.
So, you know, so I had to evaluate that and be brutally honest with myself. Like, do I want to continue doing this? Do I want to? And the honest answer to myself was no.
Yeah.
And that was the truth. I was like, you know, I don't want to be outside all the time. I got kids now.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to have to go to the club or you know, I just
Be out at all hours.
I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, I did that for a good chunk of my life, and that's cool. I mean, you know, for everybody else, whoever is doing that, respect. You know, if you can do it and make a living off of it and whatever, and respect, you know, or respect it.
Getting back to make a living off of it, it's really hard in music.
It's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult.
It's very difficult. I mean,
you know, and then when you have kids, right, you think about like, where's your time being spent?
yeah, well, I mean, you start thinking about other things like, how am I going to get insurance?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's hard to get insurance when you're a musician, you know? Fast forward into now, present. What are you currently doing with the real estate? Where are you? What are some things that you're doing?
Yeah. So right now, my focus is on multifamily apartment buildings out of state. So, just kind of growing my portfolio, meeting with investors. I talk to a lot of investors. Or we do like a syndication business model where we buy large apartment buildings, and we get other investors involved. And then, with the profits, we split and pay out returns. So right now, I'm 500 units plus on apartment buildings.
Nice.
We have a 71 unit under contract right now. The reason why I was a little bit late, I had a meeting with an investor, had to explain it to him and kind of break it down. But yeah, so my focus right now is multifamily apartment buildings, right? Working with investors, raising capital, just kind of educating people on how this business model works, the benefits of real estate. I mean, kind of don't really have to explain that part too much. With that, not only that, I think the education part, I'm a coach, I'm a real estate coach. So I coach students on, buying their first property, second out-of-state property, just how to look at their financial picture, how to invest for a return, different strategies on how to do it, because everybody's financial situation is different. So like getting a high level overview of what their finances are, their liquidity, just what they have access to, and then kind of putting together a game plan of how, some actual items they can take to buy their first property, right?
So you went from music to real estate. Can you talk a little bit about that transition? Imagine, you talked about like the mindset change, but like, is this something you went and say, oh, I need to go back to school for? Or is this something that's like, I'm just going to read everything I humanly can about this? Or is it like, I intrinsically understand how this stuff kind of works, so I'm just going to build on top? You mentioned like build, like, oh, wow, like if I can, pay for this by renting somebody this, because you mentioned what you did with your place. Like, how did you kind of make that like transition, right? Because you need to kind of know what you're doing, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna go out there and start buying. It can maybe it started that way for you. I don't know. I'd be really interested in kind of like that journey that you went through to kind of fully make that the tactical components of you making that change.
Yeah. So, it was my first property, and I was talking about my mortgage being one of my biggest expenses, and all I could think about was like, I'm paycheck to paycheck. What's my biggest expense? My mortgage. How do I get rid of my mortgage? Maybe I have a 2-story home. Maybe if I always talked about this when people ask me like, oh, what are you going to do? Oh, I'll probably renovate the house and rent it out. But I didn't know how I was going to do that. I didn't have the money to do it. I've never done that before. I was scared, to be honest. Yeah. And, when I was talking about my mom passing, that made me less fearful, because I was just, the closest thing to death is the scariest thing, at least for me. And when I got there, everything else beyond that it didn't matter. Right. So I was like, okay, I got to that point where I'm like, I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes I couldn't even leave the house because I didn't have gas money, and then, to be honest, there's people in worse situations. I mean, but this isn't like a comparison. It's just really anecdotal to my own life experience. I was hurt, I didn't really have the finances to execute anything. But I know one thing that I started to get focused on was, how do I get rid of my mortgage? That's when I started to lock in. Then I started to do research. How do you buy a house with no money? And then that's kind of where my mind started going. Then I just started diving in, and I came across like a podcast called Bigger Pockets. And then I listened to one episode. I always refer back to this. It was this single mother in Detroit. She was making $24,000 a month as a waitress and had like 3 kids. She used a tax return to buy a property, lived there. Next year, tax return bought another property, rented that one out, and she just kept repeating that process. And then she got like 10 houses, and then I was paying for her life expenses. So I was like, okay, if a single mom of 3 on making $24,000 a month can figure something out, I can figure something out. And then that's just kind of when I got motivated to like, let me figure this out. So anyways, what I did was I used whatever I had to increase the value of the property, like do some rehab work. Equity went up, pulled money out, and I used that money to rehab essentially the whole house. Then that's when I rented it out. When I pulled out money from the equity, that big lump of cash, that was my first aha moment. I was like, this is like my whole year's worth of salary.
Yeah.
One chunk right here. That's when I had the light bulb went off. I was like, okay, there's something here. Then the value went up again, and I pulled cash out again. And I was like, the real estate, this is the most amount of money that I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, this is how people do it. I just didn't have it all figured out, but this is how people do it, or this is one way. Then I was like, okay, this house is for my son. How can I get another one for my daughter? Because I just had a daughter. So then my next goal was to get another house. So my goal was to get 2 houses, one for each kid. And then that was the end of my goals. I got my second house, and I was like, okay, I hit my goal, but I want to keep going. How do I keep going?
Yeah.
So then that's kind of where I went. But it wasn't like a switch. It was like, I think it was like an ending of an era, because I started to realize when I had that moment, it was like a year. This year, I'm reflecting on my life. I'm listening to audiobooks, real estate podcasts, all that. And this is like the beginning of my transformation.
Yeah.
And then I was realizing more and more that the music business was this, I don't want to say serving me a purpose, but I just didn't feel like that was conducive to what I wanted.
It wasn't aligned with what you wanted to accomplish.
Yeah. How I wanted to live my life.
Yeah.
So that was kind of coming to an end. And then the newer version of myself was coming.
Yeah.
Right. So that was me like educating myself. And then, so I got my second house, and from there.
And those are big motivations, like, with kids, right? Like I have 2 kids, right? So like, you have 2 kids too, right? So it's like the idea is like, I don't know, as a father, like when I'm doing something for my children, like big motivation.
100%.
Right? And it's like interesting that you maybe you did that subconsciously, or maybe you did it consciously, or just like, I'm a dad, I want to have a legacy for my kids, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to get them a house. So like maybe that's fully paid for, that they never have to worry about where they're going to live, or they can use it as an investment vehicle or whatever it ends up being. So
100%. So, like that became my motivation, was to set it up for the kids.
Yeah.
Right. And to kind of, to go back to what you were talking about earlier, when you focus and you're intentional about something, and you believe in yourself, and you work towards something, you could accomplish a lot. I remember people telling me you'll never be able to buy a house in the Bay Area, you'll never afford it. Like close family, close friends. And I got 2 houses in the Bay, right? And that, I mean,
my man,
it's not a lot, but coming from,
it's a lot, right? It's a lot. Michelle, they'll play that. No, it's a lot.
From
come on,
where we're from,
yeah,
right. So, and don't get me wrong. I think this is the big takeaway here, right? Is think about what it is that you want out of life. Think about the future version of yourself. Be intentional with what that looks like, and then work towards it. Because if you believe in yourself and you take action, you can accomplish a lot. Like if I would have listened to everybody talking to me, I would have never had first or second house, or scaled up to however many units I have now, right? So, and another thing too is that everything that I've done, even some things that I'm doing right now, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that it might not work out.
It's all right though. We have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations if we want to accomplish things.
If you want to
that others won't accomplish.
You have to get outside of that comfort zone, and you have to work, because if you don't, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing changes when nothing changes. Right.
Yeah.
You just stay in the same spot where you are.
Yeah.
You're talking a little bit about growth mindset, right? It's just like, hey, I'm happy with where I am, but like, I've got more in me. I've got more runway. I've got more visions of what I want my life to be like hey, I'm envisioning myself sitting on a beach twice a year. Oh, I envision sitting on my beach 4 times a year. Whatever it ends up being, oh, my kids are there. Oh, my grandkids are there with me too, or whatever it ends up being eventually, right? Those things they're big motivators.
For sure. So I think they're very powerful too. Just
Yeah.
well, that being said, if people are interested in investing in multi-unit homes, how can they reach out to you? And any other additional things that you'd like to convey to our audience?
Yeah. And so I'm most active on Instagram. So you can follow me, j.invest on Instagram. Just send me a message. Happy to chat. Like I said, I like to educate people on investing. I think it's important to invest, period. No matter what it is. Like real simple, right? You leave your money in the bank. It's earning 0% APR.
They're 0.001.
Bank is taking that money and they're lending it out to somebody to buy a house at 6 or 7%.
Yeah.
Then they're giving you nothing at the end of the year. That's negative to inflation. So you leave your money in the bank, you're losing. Take it out, invest it in something. If stocks is your thing, if crypto is your thing, treasury bills, if that's your thing, real estate, that's my thing. Just invest it in something, put it into a high yield account. I just think it's very important to invest. Whatever your vehicle is, it's important to do that, right?
Build the muscle behind it, right? Because, you start out one day and, if, you come to me and you say, hey, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to put away $2,000 a month.
Yep.
People start looking at it like, oh, wow, like that might be a lot of money it's a lot of money for a lot of people, right? Versus like, hey, your way you're going to do is build the muscle by putting $200 a month away.
Right.
And put it over here, right? At the end of the year, you're going to have this, right? But most importantly, you build the muscle behind it, right? Because that's stuff I've struggled with in my life, right? I'm doing all right, but like, that's the biggest muscle. It ends up in my account. I'm like, oh, well, I'm a big skier. I think I mean, personally, yes, or whatever it ends up being, right? But, I could have easily taken that $400 and maybe put it aside to be more mindful to get towards that, closer to that future that I'm looking for.
100%. Yeah. So, follow me, message me. I'm happy to chat. I like to, uplift, educate, and just kind of help people because I came from scarcity, crabs in a bucket, and I just look at myself like if I'm able to kind of switch and change my situation, everybody can. It's just you have to lock in, you have to be committed, you have to dedicate yourself, and just put in the work. Gotta put in the work.
Well, thank you for being on today. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
That was great.
Yeah.
And this is the Black Wlvz. We appreciate your time. We'll see you very soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
Have a good one, podcast. Have a good one, Wolfpack.